Honor killing. An honor killing, American English, honor killing, Commonwealth English, or shame killing is the murder of an individual, either an outsider or a member of a family, by someone seeking to protect what they see as the dignity and honor of themselves or their family. Honor killings are often connected to religion, caste, and other forms of hierarchical social stratification, or to sexuality. Most often, it involves the murder of a woman or girl by male family members due to the perpetrator's belief that the victim has brought dishonor or shame upon the family name, reputation, or prestige. Honor killings are believed to have originated from tribal customs. They are prevalent in various parts of the world, as well as in immigrant communities in countries which do not otherwise have societal norms that encourage honor killings. Honor killings are often associated with rural and tribal areas, but they occur in urban areas too. Although condemned by international conventions and human rights organizations, honor killings are often justified and encouraged by various communities. In cases where the victim is an outsider, not murdering this individual would, in some regions, cause family members to be accused of cowardice, a moral defect, and subsequently be morally stigmatized in their community. In cases when the victim is a family member, the murdering evolves from the perpetrator's perception that the victim has brought shame or dishonor upon the entire family, which could lead to social ostracization by violating the moral norms of a community. Typical reasons include being in a relationship or having associations with social groups outside the family that may lead to social exclusion of a family stigma by association. Examples are having premarital, extramarital, or postmarital sex in case of divorce or widowship, refusing to enter into an arranged marriage, seeking a divorce or separation, engaging in interfaith relations or relations with persons from a different caste, being the victim of a sexual crime, dressing in clothing, jewelry and accessories that are associated with sexual deviance, engaging in a relationship in spite of moral marriage impediments or bans, and homosexuality. Though both men and women commit and are victims of honor killings, in many communities conformity to moral standards implies different behavior for men and women, including stricter standards for chastity for women. In many families, the honor motive is used by men as a pretext to restrict the rights of women. Honor killings are primarily associated with countries in the Middle East and North Africa MENA, but are also rooted in other cultures, including India and the Philippines. Definitions. Human Rights Watch defines honor killings as follows. Honor crimes are acts of violence, usually murder, committed by male family members against female family members who are perceived to have brought dishonor upon the family. A woman can be targeted by her family for a variety of reasons, including refusing to enter into an arranged marriage, being the victim of a sexual assault, seeking a divorce even from an abusive husband, or committing adultery. The mere perception that a woman has acted in a manner to bring dishonor to the family is sufficient to trigger an attack. Men can also be the victims of honor killings, either committed by members of the family of a woman with whom they are perceived to have an inappropriate relationship, or by the members of their own families, the latter often connected to homosexuality. General characteristics. Many honor killings are planned by multiple members of a family, sometimes through a formal family council. The threat of murder is used as a means to control behavior, especially concerning sexuality and marriage, which may be seen as a duty for some or all family members to uphold. Family members may feel compelled to act to preserve the reputation of the family in the community and avoid stigma or shunning, particularly in tight-knit communities. Perpetrators often do not face negative stigma within their communities because their behavior is seen as justified. Extent. Reliable figures of honor killings are hard to obtain, in large part because honor is either improperly defined or is defined in ways other than in Article 12 of the other block quoted above without a clear follow-up explanation. As a result, criteria are hardly ever given for objectively determining whether a given case is an instance of honor killing. Because of the lack of both a clear definition of honor and coherent criteria, it is often presupposed that more women than men are victims of honor killings, and victim counts often contain women exclusively. Honor killings occur in many parts of the world, but are most widely reported in the Middle East, South Asia, and North Africa. Historically, honor killings were also common in southern Europe, honor killings within living memory within Mediterranean countries such as Italy and Greece. Methods. Methods of murdering include stoning, stabbing, beating, burning, beheading, hanging, throat slashing, lethal acid attacks, shooting, and strangulation. Sometimes communities perform murders in public to warn other individuals within the community of possible consequences of engaging in what is seen as illicit behavior. Use of minors as perpetrators. Often, minor girls and boys are selected by the family to act as the murderers so that the murderer may benefit from the most favorable legal outcome. Boys and sometimes women in the family are often asked to closely control and monitor the behavior of their sisters or other females in the family to ensure that the females do not do anything to tarnish the honor and reputation of the family. The boys are often asked to carry out the murder, and if they refuse, they may face serious repercussions from the family and community for failing to perform their duty. General cultural features. The cultural features which lead to honor killings are complex. Honor killings involve violence and fear as a tool for maintaining control. Honor killings are argued to have their origins among nomadic peoples and herdsmen. Such populations carry all their valuables with them and risk having them stolen, and they do not have proper recourse to law. As a result, inspiring fear, using aggression, and cultivating a reputation for violent revenge to protect property is preferable to other behaviors. In societies where there is a weak rule of law, people must build fierce reputations. In many cultures where honor is of central value, men are sources, or actor generators/agents, of that honor, while the only effect that women can have on honor is to destroy it. Once the family's or clan's honor is considered to have been destroyed by a woman, there is a need for immediate revenge to restore it, for the family to avoid losing face in the community. As Amnesty International statement notes, the relation between social views on female sexuality and honor killings are complex. The way through which women in honor-based societies are considered to bring dishonor to men is often through their sexual behavior. Indeed, violence related to female sexual expression has been documented since ancient Rome, when the paterfamilias had the right to kill an unmarried sexually active daughter or an adulterous wife. In medieval Europe, early Jewish law mandated stoning for an adulterous wife and her partner. Carolyn Fluher-Lobban, an anthropology professor at Rhode Island College, writes that an act, or even alleged act, of any female sexual misconduct upsets the moral order of the culture, and bloodshed is the only way to remove any shame brought by the actions and restore social equilibrium. However, the relation between honor and female sexuality is a complicated one, and some authors argue that it is not women's sexuality per se that is the problem, but rather women's self-determination in regard to it, as well as fertility. Sharaf Khanana, professor of anthropology at Berzad University, says that honor killing is. In some cultures, honor killings are considered less serious than other murders simply because they arise from long-standing cultural traditions and are thus deemed appropriate or justifiable. Additionally, according to a poll done by the BBC Asian Network, 1 in 10 of the 500 young South Asians surveyed said they would condone any murder of someone who threatened their family's honor. Nayat Tawfiq of the Women's Resource Centre in Lahore, Pakistan says, "It is an unholy alliance that works against women. The killers take pride in what they have done. The tribal leaders condone the act and protect the killers, and the police connive the cover-up." The lawyer and human rights activist Tina Chalani says the right to life of women in Pakistan is conditional on their obeying social norms and traditions. A July 2008 Turkish study by a team from Dikil University on honor killings in the southeastern Anatolia region, the predominantly Kurdish area of Turkey, has so far shown that little, if any, social stigma is attached to honor killing. It also comments that the practice is not related to a feudal societal structure. There are also perpetrators who are well-educated university graduates. Of all those surveyed, 60% are either high school or university graduates, or at the very least, literate. In contemporary times, the change in cultural and economic status of women has also been used to explain the occurrences of honor killings. Women in largely patriarchal cultures who have gained economic independence from their families go against their male-dominated culture. Some researchers argue that the shift towards greater responsibility for women and less for their fathers may cause their male family members to act in oppressive and sometimes violent manners to regain authority. Farina Lan, editor of a Muslim magazine, writes that honor killings which arise in Western cultures such as Britain are a tactic for immigrant families to cope with the alienating consequences of urbanization. Alam argues that immigrants remain close to the home culture and their relatives because it provides a safety net. She writes that Alam argues that it is thus the attempt to regain control and the feelings of alienation that ultimately leads to an honor killing. Refusal of an arranged or forced marriage. Refusal of an arranged marriage or forced marriage is often a cause of an honor killing. The family that has prearranged the marriage risks disgrace if the marriage does not proceed, and the betrothed is indulged in a relationship with another individual without prior knowledge of the family members. Seeking a divorce. A woman attempting to obtain a divorce or separation without the consent of the husband/extended family can also be a trigger for honor killings. In cultures where marriages are arranged and goods are often exchanged between families, a woman's desire to seek a divorce is often viewed as an insult to the men who negotiated the deal. By making their marital problems known outside the family, the women are seen as exposing the family to public dishonor. Allegations and rumors about a family member. In certain cultures, an allegation against a woman can be enough to tarnish her family's reputation. and to trigger an honor killing, the family's fear of being ostracized by the community is enormous. Victims of rape. In many cultures, victims of rape face severe violence, including honor killings from their families and relatives. In many parts of the world, women who have been raped are considered to have brought dishonor or disgrace to their families. This is especially the case if the victim becomes pregnant. Central to the code of honor in many societies is a woman's virginity, which must be preserved until marriage. Susan Ruggie writes, "A woman's virginity is the property of the men around her, first her father, later a gift for her husband, a virtual dowry as she graduates to marriage." Homosexuality. There is evidence that homosexuality can also be perceived as grounds for honor killing by relatives. It is not only same-sex sexual acts that trigger violence. Behaviors that are regarded as inappropriate gender expression, e.g., male acting or dressing in a feminine way, can also raise suspicion and lead to honor violence. In one case, a gay Jordanian man was shot and wounded by his brother. In another case, in 2008, a homosexual Turkish Kurdish student, Ahmet Yildiz, was shot outside a cafe and later died in the hospital. Sociologists have called this Turkey's first publicized gay honor killing. In 2012, a 17-year-old gay youth was murdered by his father in Turkey in the southeastern province of Diyarbakir. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees states that claims made by LGBT persons often reveal exposure to physical and sexual violence, extended periods of detention, medical abuse, the threat of execution, and honor killing. A 2019 study found that anti-gay honor abuse found more support in 4 surveyed Asian countries: India, Iran, Malaysia, and Pakistan, and among Asian British people than in a white British sample. The study also found that women and younger people were less likely to support such honor abuse. Muslims and Hindus were substantially more likely to approve of honor abuse than Christians or Buddhists, who scored lowest of the examined religious groups. Forbidden male partners. In many honor-based cultures, a woman maintains her honor through her modesty. If a man disrupts a woman's modesty through dating her, having sex with her, especially if her virginity was lost, the man has dishonored the woman, even if the relationship is consensual. Thus, to restore the woman's lost honor, the male members of her family will often beat and murder the offender. Sometimes, violence extends to the offender's family members, since honor feud attacks are seen as family conflicts. Interfaith and outside the caste relations. Some cultures have very strong caste social systems, based on social stratification characterized by endogamy, hereditary transmission of a style of life which often includes an occupation, ritual status in a hierarchy, customary social interaction, and exclusion based on cultural notions of purity and pollution. The caste system in India is such an example. In such cultures, it is often expected that one marries and forms closed associations only within one's caste, and avoids lower castes. When these rules are violated, including relations with people of a different religion, this can result in violence, including honor killings. Socializing outside the home. In some cultures, women are expected to have a primarily domestic role. Such ideas are often based on practices like purdah. Purdah is a religious and social practice of female seclusion prevalent among some Muslim and Hindu communities. It often requires having women stay indoors, the avoiding of socialization between men and women, and full body covering of women, including burqa. When these rules are violated, including by dressing in a way deemed inappropriate or displaying behavior seen as disobedient, the family may respond with violence up to honor killings. Renouncing or changing religion. Violating religious dogma, such as changing or renouncing religion, can trigger honor killings. Such ideas are supported by laws in some countries. Blasphemy is punishable by death in Afghanistan, Iran, Nigeria, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Somalia, and punishable by prison in many other countries. Apostasy is also legal in 25 countries, and some punishable with a death penalty. Causes. There are multiple causes for which honor killings occur, and numerous factors interact with each other. Views on women. Honor killings are often a result of strongly misogynistic views towards women and the position of women in society. In these traditionally male-dominated societies, women are dependent first on their father and then on their husbands, whom they are expected to obey. Women are viewed as property and not as individuals with their own agency. As such, they must submit to male authority figures, and the family failure to do so can result in extreme violence as punishment. Violence is seen as a way of ensuring compliance and preventing rebellion. According to Shahid Khan, a professor at the Aga Khan University in Pakistan, women are considered the property of the males in their family irrespective of their class, ethnic, or religious group. The owner of the property has the right to decide its fate. The concept of ownership has turned women into a commodity which can be exchanged, bought and sold. In such cultures, Women are not allowed to take control over their bodies and sexuality. These are the property of the males of the family, the father and other male relatives who must ensure virginity until marriage, and then the husband to whom his wife's sexuality is subordinated. A woman must not undermine the ownership rights of her guardian by engaging in premarital sex or adultery. Cultures of honor and shame. The concept of family honor is extremely important in many communities worldwide. The UN estimates that 5,000 women and girls are murdered each year in honor killings, which are widely reported in the Middle East and South Asia, but they occur in countries as varied as Brazil, Canada, Iran, Israel, Italy, Jordan, Egypt, Sweden, Syria, Uganda, the United Kingdom, the United States, and other countries. In honor cultures, managing reputation is an important social ethic. Men are expected to act tough and be intolerant of disrespect, and women are expected to be loyal to the family and be chaste. An insult to your personal or family honor must be met with a response, or the stain of dishonor can affect many others in the family and the wider community. Such acts often include female behaviors that are related to sex outside marriage or way of dressing, but may also include male homosexuality like the Imo killings in Iraq. The family may lose respect in the community and may be shunned by relatives. The only way they perceive that shame can be erased is through an honor killing. The cultures in which honor killings take place are usually considered collectivist cultures, where the family is more important than the individual, and individual autonomy is seen as a threat to the family and its honor. Though it may seem in a modern context that honor killings are tied to certain religious traditions, the data does not support this claim. Research in Jordan found that teenagers who strongly endorsed honor killings in fact did not come from more religious households than teens who rejected it. The ideology of honor is a cultural phenomenon that does not appear to be related to religion, be it Middle Eastern or Western countries, and honor killings likely have a long history in human societies which predate many modern religions. In the US, a rural trend known as the small town effect exhibits elevated incidents of argument-related homicides among white males, particularly in honor-oriented states in the South and the West, where everyone knows your name and knows your shame. This is similarly observed in rural areas in other parts of the world. Honor cultures pervade in places of economic vulnerability, and with the absence of the rule of law, where law enforcement cannot be counted on to protect them. People then resort to their reputations to protect them from social exploitation, and the man must stand up for himself and not rely on others to do so. To lose your honor is to lose this protective barrier. Possessing honor in such a society can grant social status and economic and social opportunities. When honor is ruined, a person or family in an honor culture can be socially ostracized, face restricted economic opportunities, and have a difficult time finding a mate. Laws and European colonialism. Legal frameworks can encourage honor killings. Such laws include on one side leniency towards such murdering, and on the other side criminalization of various behaviors, such as extramarital sex, indecent dressing in public places, or homosexual sexual acts, with these laws acting as a way of reassuring perpetrators of honor killings that people engaging in these behaviors deserve punishment. In the Roman Empire, the Roman law lex Julia de adulteriis coercendis implemented by Augustus Caesar permitted the murder of daughters and their lovers who committed adultery at the hands of their fathers, and also permitted the murder of the adulterous wife's lover at the hand of her husband. Provocation in English law and related laws on adultery in English law, as well as Article 324 of the French Penal Code of 1810, were legal concepts which allowed for reduced punishment for the murder committed by a husband against his wife and her lover if the husband had caught them in the act of adultery. On 7 November 1975, Law No. 617/75 Article 17 repealed the 1810 French Penal Code Article 324. The 1810 Penal Code Article 324 passed by Napoleon was copied by Middle Eastern Arab countries. It inspired Jordan's Article 340, which permitted the murder of a wife and her lover if caught in the act at the hands of her husband. Today the article provides for mitigating circumstances. France's 1810 Penal Code Article 324 also inspired the 1858 Ottoman Penal Code's Article 188. Both the French Article 324 and Ottoman Article 188 were drawn on to create Jordan's Article 340, which was retained even after a 1944 revision of Jordan's laws which did not touch public conduct and family law. Article 340 still applies to this day in a modified form. France's mandate over Lebanon resulted in its penal code being imposed there in 1940 through 1944, with the French-inspired Lebanese law for adultery allowing the mere accusation of adultery against women resulting in a maximum punishment of 2 years in prison, while men have to be caught in the act and not merely accused, and are punished with only 1 year in prison. France's Article 324 inspired laws in other Arab countries such as Algeria's 1991 Penal Code Article 279, Egypt's 1937 Penal Code No. 58, Article 237, Iraq's 1966 Penal Code Article 409, Jordan's 1960 Penal Code No. 16, Article 340, Kuwait's Penal Code Article 153, Lebanon's Penal Code Articles 193, 252, 253 and 562. These were amended in 1983, 1994, 1995, 1996, and 1999 and were eventually repealed by the Lebanese Parliament on 4 August 2011. Libya's Penal Code Article 375, Morocco's 1963 Amended Penal Code Article 418, Oman's Penal Code Article 252, Palestine, which had two codes, Jordan's 1960 Penal Code 1960 in the West Bank and British Mandate Criminal Code Article 18 in the Gaza Strip. These were respectively repealed by Article 1 and Article 2 and both by Article 3 of the 2011 Law No. 71, which was signed on 5 May 2011 by President Mahmoud Abbas into the 10 October 2011 Official Gazette No. 91, applying in the Criminal Code of Palestine's Northern Governorates and Southern Governorates, Syria's 1953 Amended 1949 Penal Code Article 548, Tunisia's 1991 Penal Code Article 207, which was repealed, United Arab Emirates Law No. 3/1978, Article 334, Yemen Law No. 12/1994, Article 232. In Pakistan, the law was based upon the 1860 Indian Penal Code IPC implemented by the colonial authorities in British India, which allowed for mitigation of punishment for charges of assault or criminal force in the case of a grave and sudden provocation. This clause was used to justify the legal status of honor killing in Pakistan, although the IPC makes no mention of it. In 1990, the Pakistani government reformed this law to bring it in terms with the Sharia, and the Pakistani Federal Shariat Court declared that according to the teachings of Islam, provocation, no matter how grave and sudden it is, does not lessen the intensity of crime of murder. However, Pakistani judges still sometimes hand down lenient sentences for honor killings, justified by still citing the IPC mention of a grave and sudden provocation. Forced suicide is a substitute. A forced suicide may be a substitute for an honor killing. In this case, the family members do not directly murder the victim themselves, but force him or her to commit suicide in order to avoid punishment. Such suicides are reported to be common in southeastern Turkey. It was reported that in 2001, 565 women lost their lives in honor-related crimes in Iran, of which 375 were reportedly staged as self-immolation. In 2008, self-immolation occurred in all the areas of Kurdish settlement in Iran, where it was more common than in other parts of Iran. It is claimed that in Iraqi Kurdistan many deaths are reported as female suicides in order to conceal honor-related crimes. Restoring honor through a forced marriage. In the case of an unmarried woman or girl associating herself with a man, losing virginity, or being raped, the family may attempt to restore its honor with a shotgun wedding. The groom will usually be the man who has dishonored the woman or girl, but if this is not possible, the family may try to arrange a marriage with another man, often a man who is part of the extended family of the one who has committed the acts with the woman or girl. This being an alternative to an honor killing, the woman or girl has no choice but to accept the marriage. The family of the man is expected to cooperate and provide a groom for the woman. Religion. Whitney Brown, the advocacy director of Human Rights Watch, said that the practice goes across cultures and religions. Resolution 1327/2003 of the Council of Europe states that many Muslim commentators and organizations condemn honor killings as an un-Islamic cultural practice. There is no mention of honor killing, extrajudicial killing by a woman's family in the Quran, and the practice violates Islamic law. Tahir Shahid Khan, a professor of women's issues at Aga Khan University, blames such murdering on attitudes across different castes, ethnic, and religious groups that view women as property with no rights of their own as the motivation for honor killings. Ali Gomar, Egypt's former Grand Mufti, has also spoken out forcefully against honor killings. As a more generic statement reflecting the wider Islamic scholarly trend, Jonathan Celsus Rand says that questions about honor killings have regularly found their way into the inboxes of muftis like Yusuf Qaradawi or the late scholar Muhammad Hussein Fadlallah. Their responses reflect a rare consensus. No Muslim scholar of any note, either medieval or modern, has sanctioned a man killing his wife or sister for tarnishing her or the family's honor. If a woman or a man found together were to deserve the death penalty for fornication, this would have to be established by the evidence required by the Quran, either a confession or the testimony of 4 male witnesses, all upstanding in the eyes of the court, who actually saw penetration occur. Further, while honor killings are common in Muslim countries like Pakistan and the Arab nation, it is a practically unknown practice in other Muslim countries, such as Indonesia, Bangladesh, and Senegal. This fact supports the idea that honor killings are to do with culture rather than religion. The late Yemeni Muslim scholar M. Ulisawani25 Ahmadi Shakoni wrote that one reason the Sharia stipulates execution as a potential punishment for men who murder women is to counter honor killings for alleged slights of honor. He wrote, "There is no doubt that laxity on this matter is one of the greatest means leading to women's lives being destroyed, especially in the Bedouin regions, which are characterized by harsh hard-heartedness and a strong sense of honor and shame stemming from pre-Islamic times." In history, Matthew Goldstein, J.D. Arizona has noted that honor killings were encouraged in ancient Rome, where male family members who did not take action against the female adulterers and their families were actively persecuted. The origin of honor killings and the control of women is evidenced throughout history in the cultures and traditions of many regions. The Roman law of pater familias gave complete control to the men of the family over both their children and wives. Under these laws, the lives of children and wives were at the discretion of the men and their families. Ancient Roman law also justified honor killings by stating that women who were found guilty of adultery could be killed by their husbands. During the Qing dynasty in China, fathers and husbands had the right to kill daughters who were deemed to have dishonored the family. Among the indigenous Aztecs and Incas, adultery was punishable by death. During John Calvin's rule of Geneva, women found guilty of adultery were punished by being drowned in the Rhone River. Honor killings have a long tradition in Mediterranean Europe. According to the Honor-Related Violence European Resource Book and Good Practice, page 234, honor in the Mediterranean world is a code of conduct, a way of life and an ideal of the social order, which defines the lives, the customs and the values of many of the peoples in the Mediterranean Mole. By region. According to the UN in 2002. In addition, the United Nations Commission on Human Rights gathered reports from several countries, and considering only the countries that submitted reports, it was shown that honor killings have occurred in Bangladesh, Great Britain, Brazil, Ecuador, Egypt, India, Israel, Italy, Jordan, Pakistan, Morocco, Sweden, Turkey, and Uganda. According to Whitney Brown, Advocacy Director for Human Rights Watch, the practice of honor killing goes across cultures and religions. International response. Honor killings are condemned as a serious human rights violation and are addressed by several international instruments. Honor killings are opposed by United Nations General Assembly Resolution 55/66 adopted in 2000 and subsequent resolutions, which have generated various reports. The Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence Against Women and Domestic Violence addresses this issue. Article 42 reads, "The World Health Organization, who addressed the issue of honor killings and stated, murders of women to save the family honor are among the most tragic consequences and explicit illustrations of embedded, culturally accepted discrimination against women and girls. According to the UNODC, honor crimes, including killing, are one of history's oldest forms of gender-based violence. It assumes that a woman's behavior casts a reflection on the family and the community. In some communities, a father, brother, or cousin will publicly take pride in a murder committed to preserving the honor of a family. In some such cases, local justice officials may side with the family and take no formal action to prevent similar deaths." In national legal codes, legislation on this issue varies, but today the vast majority of countries no longer allow a husband to legally murder a wife for adultery, although adultery itself continues to be punishable by death in some countries or to commit other forms of honor killings. However, in many places, adultery and other immoral sexual behaviors by female family members can be considered mitigating circumstances in the case when they are murdered, leading to significantly shorter sentences. Contemporary laws which allow for mitigating circumstances or acquittals for men who murder female family members to do sexual behaviors are, for the most part, inspired by the French Napoleonic Code, France's crime of passion law, which remained in force until 1975. The Middle East, including the Arab countries of North Africa, Iran and non-Arab minorities within Arabic countries, have high recorded level of honor crimes, and these regions are the most likely to have laws offering complete or partial defenses to honor killings. However, with the exception of Iran, laws which provide leniency for honor killings are not derived from Islamic law, but from the penal codes of the Napoleonic Empire. French culture shows a higher level of toleration of such crimes among the public compared to other Western countries, and indeed, recent surveys have shown the French public to be more accepting of these practices than the public in other countries. One 2008 Gallup survey compared the views of the French, German and British public and those of French, German and British Muslims on several social issues. 4% of the French public said honor killings were morally acceptable, and 8% of the French public said crimes of passion were morally acceptable. Honor killings were seen as acceptable by 1% of German public and also 1% of the British public. Crimes of passion were seen as acceptable by 1% of German public and 2% of the British public. Among Muslims, 5% in Paris, 3% in Berlin, and 3% in London saw honor killings as acceptable, and 4% in Paris, less than the French public. 1% in Berlin, and 3% in London saw crimes of passion as acceptable. According to the report of the United Nations Special Rapporteur submitted to the 58th session of the United Nations Commission on Human Rights in 2002 concerning cultural practices in the family that reflect violence against women E/CN4/2002/83. As of 2022, most countries with complete or partial defenses for killings due to sexual behaviors or parental disobedience are MENA countries, but there are some notable exceptions, namely Philippines. The legal aspects of honor killings in different countries are discussed below. Yemen. Laws effectively exonerate fathers who murder their children. Also, the blood money paid for females that are murdered is less than that for males that are murdered. Iran. Article 630 exempts a husband from punishment if he murders his wife or her lover upon discovering them in the act of adultery. Article 301 stipulates that a father and paternal grandfather are not to be retaliated against for murdering their child/grandchild. Jordan. In recent years, Jordan has amended its code to modify its laws, which used to offer a complete defense for honor killings. Syria. In 2009, Article 548 of the Syrian Law Code was amended. Beforehand, the article waived any punishment for males who murdered a female family member for inappropriate sexual acts. Article 548 states that he who catches his wife or one of his descendants or sister committing adultery, flagrante delicto, or illegitimate sexual acts with another, and he killed or injured one or both of them, benefits from a reduced penalty that should not be less than 2 years in prison in case of killing. Article 192 states that a judge may opt for reduced punishment such as short-term imprisonment if the killing was done with an honorable intent. In addition to this, Article 242 says that a judge may reduce a sentence for murders that were done in rage and caused by an illegal act committed by the victim. In Brazil, an explicit defense to murder in case of adultery has never been part of the criminal code, but a defense of honor not part of the criminal code has been widely used by lawyers in such cases to obtain acquittals. Although this defense has been generally rejected in modern parts of the country such as big cities since the 1950s, it has been very successful in the interior of the country. In 1991, Brazil's Supreme Court explicitly rejected the honor defense as having no basis in Brazilian law. Turkey. In Turkey, persons found guilty of this crime are sentenced to life in prison. There are well-documented cases where Turkish courts have sentenced whole families to life imprisonment for an honor killing. The most recent was on 13 January 2009, where a Turkish court sentenced 5 members of the same Kurdish family to life imprisonment for the honor killing of Nail Erdas, 16, who got pregnant as a result of rape. Pakistan. Honor killings are known as karakari. The practice is supposed to be prosecuted under the ordinary killing, but in practice police and prosecutors often ignore it. Often a man must simply claim the murdering was for his honor and he will go free. Nilafar Bakshire, advisor to Prime Minister Shaukat Aziz, stated that in 2003 as many as 1261 women were murdered in honor killings. The Hududa Ordinances of Pakistan, enacted in 1979 by then ruler General Zia-ul-Haq. The law had the effect of reducing the legal protections for women, especially regarding sex outside of the marriage. This law made it that much riskier for women to come forward with accusations of rape. In 2006, the Women's Protection Bill amended these Hudud ordinances. On 8 December 2004, under international and domestic pressure, Pakistan enacted a new law that made honor killings punishable by a prison term of 7 years, or by the death penalty in the most extreme cases. In 2016, Pakistan repealed the loophole which allowed the perpetrators of honor killings to avoid punishment by seeking forgiveness for the crime from another family member, and thus be legally pardoned. Egypt. Several studies on honor crimes by the Center of Islamic and Middle Eastern Law at the School of Oriental and African Studies in London includes one which reports on Egypt's legal system, noting a gender bias in favor of men in general, and notably Article 17 of the Penal Code, judicial discretion to allow reduced punishment in certain circumstances, often used in honor killings case. Haiti. In 2005, the laws were changed, abolishing the right of a husband to be excused for murdering his wife due to adultery. Adultery was also decriminalized. Uruguay. Until December 2017, Article 36 of the Penal Code provided for the exoneration for murder of a spouse due to the passion provoked by adultery. The case of violence against women in Uruguay has been debated in the context that it is otherwise a liberal country. Nevertheless, domestic violence is a very serious problem. According to a 2018 United Nations study, Uruguay has the second highest rate of killings of women by current or former partners in Latin America, after Dominican Republic. Despite having a reputation of being a progressive country, Uruguay is lagged behind with regard to its approach to domestic violence. For example, in Chile, considered one of the most socially conservative countries of the region, similar legislation permitting such honor killings was repealed in 1953. Philippines. Murdering one's spouse upon being caught in the act of adultery or one's daughter upon being caught in the act of premarital sex is punished by dishonor or 247 destinos banishment from a geographical area for a period of time. Philippines maintains several other traditionalist laws. It is the only country in the world except Vatican City that bans divorce. It is one of 20 countries that still has a marry a rapist law, that is, a law that exonerates a rapist from punishment if he marries a victim after the attack, and Philippines is also one of the few non-Muslim majority countries to have a criminal law against adultery. Philippines' adultery law also differentiates by gender, defining and punishing adultery more severely if committed by women. See Articles 333 and 334. Support in section. Actions of Pakistani police officers and judges, particularly at the lower level of the judiciary, have, in the past, seemed to support the act of honor killings in the name of family honor. Police enforcement, in situations of admitted murder, does not always take action against the perpetrator. Also, judges in Pakistan, particularly at the lower level of the judiciary, rather than ruling cases with gender equality in mind, also seem to reinforce inequality and in some cases sanction the murder of women considered dishonorable. Often, a suspected honor killing never even reaches court, but in cases where they do, the alleged killer is often not charged or is given a reduced sentence of 3 to 4 years in jail. In a case study of 150 honor killings, the preceding judges rejected only 8 claims that the women were murdered for the honor. The rest were sentenced lightly. In many cases in Pakistan, one of the reasons honor killing cases never make it to the courts is because, according to some lawyers and women's rights activists, Pakistani law enforcement do not get involved. Under the encouragement of the killer, police often declare the killing as a domestic case that warrants no involvement. In other cases, the women and victims are too afraid to speak up or press charges. Police officials, however, claim that these cases are never brought to them or are not major enough to be pursued on a large scale. The general indifference to the issue of honor killing within Pakistan is due to a deep-rooted gender bias in law, the police force, and the judiciary. In its report, Pakistan, Honor Killings of Girls and Women, published in September 1999, Amnesty International criticized governmental indifference and called for state responsibility in protecting human rights of female victims. To elaborate, Amnesty strongly requested the government of Pakistan to take 1. Legal, 2. Preventive, and 3. Protective measures. First of all, legal measures refer to a modification of the government's criminal laws to guarantee equal legal protection of females. On top of that, Amnesty insisted the government assure legal access for the victims of crime in the name of honor. When it comes to preventive measures, Amnesty underlined the critical need to promote public awareness through the means of media, education, and public announcements. Finally, protective measures include ensuring a safe environment for activists, lawyers, and women's groups to facilitate the eradication of honor killings. Also, Amnesty argued for the expansion of victim support services such as shelters. Kremlin-appointed Chechen President Ramzan Kadyrov said that honor killings were perpetrated on those who deserved to die. He said that those who are killed have loose morals and are rightfully shot by relatives in honor killings. He did not vilify women alone, but added that if a woman runs around and if a man runs around with her, both of them are killed. In 2007, a famous Norwegian Supreme Court advocate stated that he wanted the punishment for the killing reduced from 17 years in prison to 15 years in the case of honor killings practiced in Norway. He explained that the Norwegian public did not understand other cultures who practiced honor killings or understand their thinking, and that Norwegian culture is self-righteous. In 2008, Isra al-Azari, a Pakistani politician in Balochistan, defended the honor killings of 5 women belonging to the Amrani tribe by a relative of a local Amrani politician. Zairi defended the murdering in Parliament and asked his fellow legislators not to make a fuss about the incident. He said, "These are centuries-old traditions, and I will continue to defend them. Only those who indulge in immoral acts should be afraid." Nilafar Bakhshaya, Minister for Tourism and advisor to Pakistan Prime Minister on Women's Affairs, who had struggled against the honor killing in Pakistan, resigned in April 2007 after the clerks accused her of bringing shame to Pakistan by para-jumping with a male and hugging him after landing. Victims. This is an incomplete list of notable victims of honor killing. See also category. Victims of honor killing. Rania Laid UK Norfail or Milky Shafalian and murdered by their family for rejecting a marriage partner. The colorless ward is a girl who was killed for supposedly converting to Islam to date a Muslim boy in Iraq surged a full murder plan in the UK and carried out in India jailed by the US for encouraging her friend Nesreen Nelson to leave Islam. US Kandil Balot Kotsi Beavers for marrying Nesreen Nelson. US and Yushsedik Gilan Shalay Go in UK Layla Hussein and her daughter Rand Adol Qaeda Pilstida Isamanot and Babli Sandil Kanwal Nitish Kato Gazolakon murdered by her brother for marrying against the will of the family. Katia Koran Ukraine Ban as Momod. Her story was chronicled in the 2012 documentary film Ban as a Love Story. Waxonan as UK Samira Nazar Mosul Bidi Jimaniak Sapovis as Marian and her children, sons, Adam and Abbas, and daughter, Henny UK Kane's Reyes, and her 4 daughters, Sayer, Sophia, Alicia, and Hannah UK Fadan Sayin Dil Tersinoi, Cetizen of Amlon, Sarah said Hina Salem Italy Samis Sawo Zainab Saho, and Jishi Shafia, and Ronami Mohammed Sadia Sheikh Jaswanda Kosta to Hatton Suikuswi was Switzerland Teshi Yuns UK Nurkon Yilda Shavos Yuziba Shafir family murders took place on June 30, 2009 in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. Shafir's sisters Zainab, 19, Sahar, 17, and GT, 13, along with Rona Mohammed Omar, 52 all of African origin, were found dead inside a car. Comparison to other forms of murdering. Honor killings are along with dowry killings, most of which are committed in South Asia, gang-related murderings of women as revenge killings of female members of rival gang members' families, most of which are committed in Latin America, and witchcraft accusation killings, most of which are committed in Africa and Oceania, are some of the most recognized forms of femicide. Human rights advocates have compared honor killings to crimes of passion in Latin America, which are sometimes treated extremely leniently in the murdering of women for lack of dowry in India. Some commentators have stressed the point that the focus on honor killings should not lead people to ignore other forms of gender-based murdering of women, in particular, those which occur in Latin America. Crimes of passion and gang-related killings. The murder rate of women in this region is extremely high, with El Salvador being reported as the country with the highest rate of murders of women in the world. In 2002, Whitney Brown, advocacy director for Human Rights Watch, stated that crimes of passion have a similar dynamic in that the women are murdered by male family members and the crimes are perceived as excusable or understandable.